Bir videoya daha hoş geldiniz. Bugün sizlere bir sürprizim var. Videomuzda bir konuğumuz var. Kendisi dünyanın en büyük hava yollarından birinin kaptanı ve aynı zamanda bir Dreamliner Boeing 787 kaptanı. Kendisiyle keyifli, tatlı bir söyleşimiz olacak. Umarım videoyu beğenirsiniz. Biraz uzun olabilir ancak sorular ve cevapları çok çok değerli. Bu arada eğer bu tarz içerikleri beğeniyorsanız buna benzer videolardan gelecekte de sık sık olacak. Dilerseniz kanalımı takip edebilirsiniz. Hi Christian, how are you?
Hi, Brooke. I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm fine too. I'm so happy to have you here in my channel. So I want to thank you for accepting to join me. Thank you so much.
Hey, I'm very happy and thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Actually, I told my followers on Instagram that you will be my guest on my channel, and they were so excited too. So they sent me a lot of questions. So I have them all here. So
Okay.
start by asking those questions to you. Of course, I had to choose some of them because there are a lot of questions. First of all, I want to explain, I want to tell my followers how we met, if you excuse me, okay?
Yes, of course.
Yes. Guys, I had a dream. I always dreamed about being a pilot. So I went to England. I went to England because I want to improve my English, aviation English actually, and I want to improve my technical abilities about aviation. Then, at my very first day when I went to England, there was a barbecue, and the barbecue day, I was explaining myself to people, and I told my dream about being a pilot. Then they told me there was a pilot too. Then they showed me you, Christian. It was very shocking for me because what are the odds, right? I didn't even know any pilot in Turkey. So at my very first day, I met you. So it was very lucky day. Still, I feel very lucky to know you. Christian always believed in me, even if I don't believe in myself. So so thank you again. Thank you so much for everything.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure.
Thank you. So
You're very bright, so you will do it.
thank you so much. So I have questions, too many questions. So if you are ready, let's start.
Of
Okay.
course. Let's do it.
Okay. My first question is not a very unique question. It is a very usual question, but everybody wants to know. So, how did you become a pilot? Just a basic question. Maybe you can mention about your flight school, something like that.
Yes. So the same as you. It was my dream since I was a little boy. I always wanted to fly as a pilot. So, and he's always been with me. And I was born in the southern part of Italy, and at the time it was very difficult to make a dream like this happen. You know, because sometimes. It was very difficult, but he always been in my mind, and I always wanted to do it. So, like you, I did all kind of sacrifices to make it happen. So, and the first thing that I needed to do was to learn how to speak English. So, like you, I came to the UK, and I came to the United Kingdom to learn how to speak English first. And then I went to a flying school, and I said, "What do I need to do to become a pilot?" And they told me how much money I needed, and they told me that I needed to speak English very well, and so I did that. So I found a way of learning to speak English, and then a way to make money to pay for my training at the same time. And yeah, so I just as you know, I came to the UK, learn how to speak English, and then earn money in different jobs, all kind of jobs, you know, to support the education. And yeah, it took me a good few years, but I did do it. So it was a dream, a dream since I was a little boy. Always wanted to fly an airplane.
So you put a lot of effort on it, right?
A lot, yes. It's a job where you to be a pilot, you have to have a passion. It's not something that you choose because it's a good job, it's a good career. You are a pilot because you're born for it. You know this little voice in the back of your head that is telling you to become a pilot. Just a quick insight. I used to play football, and my football pitch was very close to a small airfield. And every time an aeroplane was taking off, I would stop and look at the plane and think, I want to be on this plane. And then even my coach used to throw the ball on my face and say, play football, because every time he knew there was an aeroplane, I would be stopping and looking. So I knew already very young that I wanted to be a pilot. Then I used to go to the city I come from in Italy is a very like a port. There's a lot of cruise liners and boats and things. And I used to go to the port to see the American carriers that had aeroplanes on top, to look at the aeroplanes from far away and dreaming that one day I would be on one of them and fly.
Well, I didn't know your story, so thank you. It was a
You're
real
welcome. That's what I'm here for, right? Tell
Yeah.
you more my true story.
Yeah, right. Christian, people wants to become a pilot, especially all around the world. They think it's a very cool job. Of course, it has a good reputation. It has a good salary, maybe good life standards. Yes, these are the good parts, of course. But I
Yeah.
think some people don't know how difficult the job is. So, what are your opinion about this topic?
Okay. So I think when as I mentioned earlier, when you want to become a pilot, you have this little voice in the back of your head, which is obviously telling you that is a job that you have to do, because this is what you made for. This is your job. So it doesn't matter if there is a problem around the world, if there is a pandemic, if there is, when I was training as a pilot, it was during September the 11th, and so there are always issues around the world, but you don't have to worry about that. All you have to worry is to get your training done and become a pilot, because this is what you do. This is what you're made of. So flying is not just a job; it's a passion. We love flying. So we when you're young, you probably will go and fly an airplane for free, because it's amazing to fly, and this is what we love doing, is just fly plane. But flying takes a lot of responsibilities, a lot of training involved, is a medical check. So you have to stay fit, you have to stay well, you have to have a very good lifestyle, especially for long haul pilots, because there is a lot of jet lag, flying to different countries, different time zone. Sometimes you end up driving a lot to get to work. You have to get up early, and then get to the airport. Sometimes you have to wake up in the middle of the night. So unfortunately, you might not be sleeping very well, but all this is part of the job. And with time, you learn how to manage your life. I obviously always, I'm very sporty, so I always tell people to stay in shape and stay fit and go to the gym and exercise. But flying itself is very hard, because you spend many mornings waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning to go to work. If you're a long haul pilot, you spend many nights flying through the night, complete the night awake, and then you have a family, people have kids, so when they arrive home, they have to look after the family. You might be working on Christmas Day, you might be working over festivity, weekends, you might be away for a long time, so sometimes it's not very good for children. If you have children, it's not very good for your partner if you're married. So it has a lot of complications sometimes, that people from outside, they think, oh, that's a dream job, but equally it can affect your lifestyle. You can affect your friends around, because you're not always there, and you have to. But with time, you learn how to adjust to things, how to make them work, and people around you, they learn that as well, and they know you are a pilot, and they know you are away a lot, and they know when how to work life around you, and you work life around them. But all in all, we do this job because we love it. So anything else around, we make it work, because it's not just a job, it's a passion. Together, as well as being a job is a passion. So we combine the job with a passion and we make it work.
Okay, thank you very much. It was
You're
a
welcome.
very good answer. So actually, my next question was the disadvantages and advantages of being a pilot, but you told them all. So I will just ask another question.
Okay.
So I know you are a captain of the one of the major airliners in the world, actually, not in Europe, in the world. So there are so many restrictions, so we can't tell the company names, both of us. Next question is, do we have to be citizen of European Union or particular countries if we want to work in European airlines?
Yeah. So so it's basically the airlines at the moment nowadays. I think when it comes to our job, there is not really any part of the world which will restrict you. When airlines need pilots, they need pilots, and you know, if you come from a different part of the world, that really doesn't affect. The only thing that might be a little bit difficult or a little bit different is the license, the type of license that you have. So if you let's say you fly in Europe, you will need an EASA license, but I'm sure your country will have some kind of agreement with a country where you're going to fly. All you will need to do is a conversion and just basically just put your paperwork and make your paperwork legal. But in our job, there is always way around this. So there is always way of making it work, and for pilots from different countries to work in other countries. And most of the airline nowadays, there are people from all over the world. Like in Europe, if you fly for a major airline in Europe, or any of this fantastic low-cost airlines as well that you have in Europe, the majority of the pilots, they come from around the world. And obviously not all of them have a European passport. So when it comes to aviation, it's a very wide, very good setup. So there is jobs for everybody.
Okay, thank you. And then next question is, which airport is hardest to land for you? I know you fly all around the world, but I wonder which is the most difficult to land.
So there is a place like airfield that I fly to, like Johannesburg, which is a very easy airfield to fly into. But there is a lot of consideration you have to take into place because it's a very high altitude, 6,000 feet above sea level. So you have to consider the altitude that you fly in, the configuration of the airplane. You have to consider the brake temperatures where you land. There is a lot of consideration, and also if you add bad weather to it, then it is a lot more you have to consider and take into place. And one of the worst plays actually that I operated into in my entire pilot career, it actually has been my hometown. I'm from Palermo in Sicily. Palermo is Sicily is an island in the southern part of Italy. It's very, very south, close to Africa. And sometimes we get Shiroku wind, which comes from Africa, and is a very, very strong wind, which is roughly, it comes from the south. And we have a specific runway that we used to use in Palermo, where they still use. I don't fly there anymore. We use a runway 20, and this is called like the Shiroku Runway. The Shiroku is one of the wind that comes from Africa, and when that comes, because of all the orographic uplift and all the geographical location of the airport around the mountains, it makes the landing very, very difficult. We have wind, something coming from 170 degrees, 40 knots, gusting 50, gusting 60, and it makes very, very hard to get the airplane on the runway. But it's experience, and I think out of my entire career, when you go Shiroku wind in Palermo in Sicily is the hardest place to land a plane.
Okay, so it's good to know for me. Thank
Yeah.
you.
You're welcome.
So
yeah.
Okay. The next question is about airplanes. I know you're a Boeing captain, so maybe you love Boeing more than Airbus. But I really want to know: is flying Boeing, especially a Dreamliner, difficult than Airbus? Which one is difficult?
Right. Okay. Nowadays, all the airplanes are designed for to work with a pilot. You know, to remove the workload from the pilot. So the airplanes are very good, are very sophisticated. They're very pilot friendly, and they help us see if something goes wrong. We go electronic checklist. We have so much technology on airplanes, which is very makes the pilot life so much easier than he did many years ago. I've flown the Airbus for many years. I've flown different types. I've flown the Airbus 319. I've flown the 320, 321. I've flown the Airbus 330, and I've flown the Airbus 340 with 4 engine. And Boeing as well. So I think they both very beautiful airplanes to fly. And I think obviously there are major difference, like the Boeing, the Airbus, you fly with a joystick, which is the difference, and you have to get used to flying with a joystick. And they're both beautiful airplanes. I wouldn't say one is more difficult than the other. I think the Boeing is more. You need a little bit more input. You need more. It's more like it lets the pilots deal with it a little bit more than the Airbus does. The Airbus, you can almost sit there and it will do a lot of work for you. When the Boeing, it still needs a little bit of more human input, let's put it that way, which is good because it links you and the plane in a better way, in a better interaction. When sometimes the Airbus is so computerized and so sophisticated that sometimes even the pilots sometimes can get confused and think, I need a few seconds to what is the airplane doing, when the Boeing is more basic but more easier to understand. But they both beautiful airplanes to fly. For instance, I give you an example. If on the Boeing, any Boeings you fly, we bug the heading. So bug the heading means the heading will stay at the same place, and then if the airplane turns, the bug of the heading will stay at the same place. So we have to try and put our heading of the plane the way we flying. So, and it's manually done, even if it's on autopilot. When with the Airbus, you don't have to do that. However, one of the good thing is that on the Boeing, if after a certain minute we don't do it, the airplane will tell you human input is required. Why are you not touching? Why are you not turning? Or where are the pilots? Like a wake up call. Like, pilots get involved. Where are you? So, and it's good because sometimes you can be tired, there could be fatigue, and that will straight away put you back in place. Oh, we haven't done this, and then you'll so it triggers an alarm which it will give you, hey, we need you, where are you, come back, work with us, when maybe the Airbus doesn't do that. So I think the Boeing is more is a less complicated. You need a little bit more pilot input than you would do with the Airbus. Both beautiful airplanes. So whether you're a new pilot is going to fly an Airbus, or whether a pilot is going to fly a Boeing, it's still going to have a beautiful airplane. My first flying job was on the Airbus 320. So I flew the Airbus 320 on my first flying job, straight from the flying club. And that was a beautiful airplane to fly.
Okay. Do you remember your first flight?
I remember my first flight was for my Italian airline that I used to work in Italy. My first flying job, I used to fly the Airbus 320, and it was actually the day of my birthday.
Really?
Yes, there was the 23rd of January,
yesterday.
And yesterday, but many years ago, and I flew to. I did a 4 sectors day So it was from Palermo to Roma, Roma, Palermo, Palermo, Roma, Roma, Palermo. So it was 4 sectors of about 35, 40 minutes each. And the very, very bad weather with very bad turbulence, a lot of rain, a lot of water. And I had a safety pilot behind me, another pilot sitting behind me, because I was a trainee, I was a pilot under training. And it's the first, I think the captain said to me, the first sector, he said, I fly out, and then you do the radio, and then the last 3 you'll be doing the flying, and I do the radio. So he flew the first sector to Rome, and then I did the next 3 sectors. So the first sector I was a little bit behind, because you come from flying the simulator, all of a sudden you fly the real airplane, and it's fast. There's a lot of things happen. It's the real life, the real people. Very overwhelming, but beautiful. And then, as we do in this job, it's part of our life. We adapt very quickly, and all of a sudden becomes natural. So it was good. I still remember it.
Okay, it sounds awesome. And then
It was awesome.
do you have any emergency? Of course, I'm sure you did, but can you tell us what kind of emergency it was, and how did you handle it?
Okay. Emergency, like I have to say, my entire career, I never really had any emergencies as such, like a major with a major failures or any big issues with my flying. I think the majority of the problems that you will experience as a pilot is probably medical problems, when you got passengers that they know very well, and there is a risk to their health and to their life, and then you have to make a decision to maybe divert to a place to save the life. You know, although the cabin crew on board, they're very good to do it, they're trained to save the life, but then there are certain medical condition that they need to be on the ground as soon as possible. So I think one of my major one actually was I was coming from India, and we had a passenger that had a stroke and needed to be on the ground as soon as possible. But we were flying over very difficult part of the world, and we have to make a decision, the right decision, because sometimes you can compromise. There's a lot of problems, sometimes you have to consider the fact that you have an unwell passenger, but you also have another 400 passengers on the plane or 300 passengers on the plane, and you have to make the right decision. It's no point to expose everybody else. So the decision was to find a place, a suitable airport, and trying to get to that place as quick as possible, and try and save a life. Thing is, there is consideration about the landing distance on the runway. If you have too much fuel on the plane, and you have to on long haul airplane, you have to jettonize fuel, so you can drop the fuel out of the plane and make the airplane lighter to be able to land. But before you do all this, you have to come up with a plan. You have to check where you're going, all your options. And I remember when I spoke to you once before, we were talking about the DODER model. So basically, you diagnose what your problem is, and this is what we did. We have a passenger that needs to be treated as soon as possible. What are our options? Where can we go? I remember that time we had the Ukraine, we had Turkey, and we had a really high ground close to Ankara when it happened as well. And but then in the end, by the time we did all the right evaluation, we had the Bucharest, which wasn't far off in Romania. And I previously did a lot of flights there. I was very familiar with the place, and I knew the radio frequency, and I was on the frequency. I called them, and they took us very quickly. And so you got your option, and then you make a decision, right? Okay, we decided we're going to Bucharest. We're going to land in Bucharest. So the decision is made, and then you start assigning people. You speak to your cabin crew. You tell them where you're going. You speak to the passenger. You speak to our traffic controllers, and they give you some kind of priority. It's an emergency because it's someone's life, and so they give you straight in to the airport without wasting any time. and then basically you do a review of everything else. You ask your other colleague if there's anything that you want to add, is anything you delegate. We work together as a team, and then I remember that day we landed in Bucharest, and then the ambulance came very quickly. They took the passenger out, and then we refueled and we flew. We continued to our destination, and then we found out afterwards that the passenger survived. So the passenger survived the event, and she was very, very happy. She wrote a beautiful letter to us to say thank you very much, and yeah.
But it sounds very, very stressful.
It is stressful, but this is what we do. This is our job, and we practice, in simulators, and we train for this. And once the problem is presented, you deal with it, because there is a lot of thinking ahead, is a lot of planning, it is always on the back of your mind. Experience is there, and when we fly plane, we always think, what if this happens? What we would do? Where are we going to go? So it's always at the back of our mind. We always constantly checking the weather, updating us, which is the closest airport, which is the better suited. Where will we go in case we have a medical problems? Where will we go if we have a failure? Where will we go if we are on fire? So that is always updating yourself, always keeping yourself in the loop, always situation awareness. Whenever something happens, you're never going to be, oh, where are we? What's happening? We know where we are, exactly where we're going to go. But you have to make it happen in the right way. You have to, be there, examine and think. Also, there are different kind of emergency, because sometimes you can have a serious emergencies where you don't have much time to think about it. You can have a rapid decompression where you have a hole on the plane, you have to descend immediately, or fire, you have to yourself to an airplane, you have to point yourself to an airfield and trying to get the fire out, as well as navigating, communicating. So the golden rules of aviation is aviate, navigate, communicate, and that I'm sure you are aware. And so aviate, you have to aviate an airplane, but equally you have to navigate, because it's no point to aviate and communicate where you're going to fly into mountains. So you have to aviate, navigate, and communicate. You combine all the three of them, you prioritize them, and then you will always be safe. You will find a place where to land and keep everybody safe.
Okay, thank you. So communication is very important in aviation, right? Especially English language is so important. We can say that English is the official language of aviation, maybe. So there are so many accidents in history, unfortunately, because of the lack of communication and the lack of English skills. So actually, there is a particular reason that I'm making this video, because I want people to see that my English is not perfect. I don't have an English accent, but I'm trying to learn. I'm trying to making these videos by talking to you, because this is important. This is important to improve our English by talking, by speaking. So what can you say? For example, I have too many followers. They are teenagers, but they're afraid of talking English. What can you say for them?
Okay, so I one of the wise thing I can say to you is that my father, he always said to me, when you're sitting at the back of the class and you don't understand something, you always put your hands up, and then you ask again. If you're not happy with something, you ask again until you make sure you understand. So we always have to remember something. English is not my native language. So when I speak in English to English-speaking people, like native English-speaking people, I always say to myself that I'm talking to them in their language. So that means I'm using I'm using a different language than where I was brought up, and then the language that I'm very comfortable with. And I'm communicating to these people in a different language. So clearly that's a barrier, that's an issue. Even me, I've been away from home for many years, and I've been practicing English for so long. But sometimes I have problems, difficulty. Or I worked many years ago. I worked for a major airline in the world, where the English was a big issue, a very big issue. But again, going to company standard operating procedures, people learn how to follow the rules, how to follow the company procedures, and you get used to talking to our traffic controllers because pretty much it's always the same. And I will say is that especially for young people, a young generation, now it's so easy to learn English. You can go to online and do courses. You can watch movie in English. You can do many things. When I was young, it was difficult. I used to do. You would go to school, and my education was in French, and I didn't have a choice. They said you're gonna be in the French class. Some of my friends had English classes. I couldn't choose, and so I did French for many years. And if I wanted to speak English, I have to have a private education, which my parents had to pay, but they couldn't afford. So I got to 18 years old. I didn't know a word of English. Now it's different. Now people have the availability. You got the media, you got the computers. Everybody has a computer. Everybody has an iPhone, and most people do. And I think I would suggest learn English. Make yourself study, speak to people, watch movie, and because the better you speak, the easier it is for you to get into a flying job, and the easier it is for you to study, and also it's just the way it is nowadays. Like you're gonna be you have to make yourself good when it comes. There will be one job with so many pilots applying, so why not be there and be ready for it, be good? So I would say learn English, try and speak it well, and nowadays it's easy to do. So it will. So I recommend spend a lot of time to learn the language. And but all I'm saying is don't let yourself be put off by the fact that you don't speak very well. At some point, none of us spoke English very well. When I was a young pilot, I didn't speak English very well, and I was flying the plane, and I was safe, and I knew what to say, and I expected what the traffic controller were going to say, and I expected what my colleague in the flight deck was going to talk about. It wasn't perfect. It took time to improve. I'm still improving. I'm still learning, but don't let discourage you. You will speak well. You need practice. You need to be around people, and also don't be afraid of talking in English. We make mistake. I make mistake after many years. We all make mistakes, but we talk in a different language, which is not our language. I make mistakes when I talk in Italian, which is my language. So, and some of my friends, they laugh at me and they say, "Mamma mia, we can tell you lived away for so long," Or sometimes when I speak in Italian, I throw in an English word because I don't remember the other. Or sometimes I don't even realize. So my daughter is bilingual. She speaks Italian and English, and sometimes some of the words, she doesn't know the difference. She doesn't know if they're English or Italian. She says that, and it is so beautiful. So the more language you speak, the more mistake you make. It's beautiful. It's part of our culture. So don't let anyone. Nobody's gonna laugh at you. Nobody. So but study, improve as much as possible.
It was very wise message. Thank you so much. I think
You're welcome.
Hear these kind of messages. So thank you. So let's talk about. Evet, gerçekten benim kendi adıma çok keyif aldığım ve sizlere de oldukça verimli olacağına inandığım bir video çekmiş olduk. Oldukça keyifli bir video olmasının yanı sıra aynı zamanda bizlere çok güzel dersler de veren bir video oldu. Bunlardan en önemlisi de İngilizce konuşmaktı. Christian'ın da söylediği ve benim de her zaman takipçilerime Instagram'dan buradan belirttiğim gibi İngilizcenizi geliştirmek istiyorsanız korkmadan, insanlar ne der diye düşünmeden, sizinle alay etmedikleri umurunuzda bile olmadan konuşmaya devam etmeniz lazım. Tabii ki native speaker'larla, yani ana dili İngilizce olan veya Christian gibi yıllarca İngiltere'de yaşamış ve size faydası olabilecek insanlarla aktif olarak pratik yapmak İngilizceyi geliştirmenizde çok önemli. Bu nedenle geçtiğimiz günlerde bir uygulama keşfetmiştim. Instagram'da da sizlerle paylaşmıştım. Fakat emin olmadan sizlere önermek istemedim. Bu uygulamayı bir süre denedim ve Amerika'da Texas eyaletinde bir hanımefendiyle oldukça uzun bir konuşmamız oldu günler boyunca. Oldukça faydalı buldum. Uygulamanın ismi Konuşarak Öğren. Bu uygulamaya Skype üzerinden erişiyorsunuz. Skype üzerinden yabancı bir native speaker'la konuşmalarınız oluyor. Sizlere belirli konu başlıkları veriyorlar ve o başlıklar üzerinden sizleri konuşmaya ikna ediyorlar, teşvik ediyorlar. Bana özel, size özel linki videonun aşağısına bırakıyorum. Sizler de hemen tıklayarak nasıl bir uygulama olduğunu deneyebilir ve artık İngilizcenin korkulu rüyanız olmasına bir son verebilirsiniz. Bir sonraki videoda görüşmek üzere arkadaşlar. Hoşça kalın.